So guys, before we get started, don't forget we do have that amazing discount code thanks to Tier 0 Games going on right now. And all you have to do is put in ZWGames5 to get 5% discount on your total order at tier0games.com. The links will be in the description below. What's up YouTube, Dai here from Zephyr War Games, bringing you a pure Psyframe deck profile. Now obviously Psyframe's got their brand new link of Lambda. Lambda's probably better just making the Gamma package more playable as a generic kind of engine throughout multiple decks. However, as a pure deck, Psyframe's become a out and out hand trap deck. Not to mention that Lambda, once it's made, just means that your opponent always has to be cautious because the Psyframe deck itself has so much negation with spells. It can summon itself out when you normal summon. It can also negate effects with Gamma, negate traps, and of course can negate the battle phase or destroy the monster that attacks, ends the battle phase, and summons out a monster itself. And then the field spell allows them to synchro summon during your opponent's turn. And they can synchro summon anything, so you can Black Rose during your opponent's turn. You can also Zeta, Omega, Starlight, any of that stuff during your opponent's turn, so it can be very, very disruptive. So without further ado, I'm going to take you through the profile, show you exactly what we've got and how we've built it, and explain how and why we do. So we've got triple Gamma. Gamma is of course your effect negator, probably the most important Psyframe monster there is. Next side to Driver, because obviously you can't do Gamma without Driver. We've then got triple Beta. Now Beta ends the battle phase, and destroys the attacking monster. So again, a very, very good card and gets you into your Synchro level 7s. We then play triple Delta. Now Delta is the spell negator, and of course with spells running around quite freely right now, this is a good one to be using, and it is the 2, so the 2s get you into Omegas, the 1s get you into Zetas or 7s as you go. And then we've got triple Alpha. Now Alpha doesn't actually negate or destroy anything, it just gives you an additional search. So when you drop an Alpha on your opponent, you then get to search your deck for a Psyframe card, so it means you can search out the trap, you can search out the field spell as well. So Alpha is very, very important. Then of course we've got triple Driver and the 1 multi-threader, so you technically have 4 drivers within the deck, and the idea is you want to be getting these in the graveyard. But even if they are banished, it is not the end of the world because you do play Psychic Field Zone just to kind of utilise your banish zone as well. And then we've got the 1 Epsilon. This stops your negates traps. For additional hand traps, you got your Ogres and your Ashes, purely because they're still very, very useful. You can use Veilers, you can also use Imperms as well if you want to. Now for the only other non-monster that isn't a Psyframe, we play Psyverse Gadget. Now this is very, very good. This is the main way that you get into Lambda. So when it is normal summoned, you target 1 level 2 or lower monster in your graveyard, special summon it in defense vision, but its effects negated. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 gadget token. Psyverse level 2, 0 attack, 0 defense. Only use this effect once per turn. So the idea is you normal summon this, bring back either your Delta, your Gamma, your Beta, or your Alpha, and any of those cards, then you link up straight into Lambda, then you produce yourself a token, so you've got an additional extension if you wanted to go into a link free. But the whole idea is that you would then use the ability to summon 2 of your Psyframes from hand slot, obviously your Driver and then your monster, and you can link them into a link free. Stuff like Unicorn, if you want to, you'd have to go with multi-threader, because I believe Unicorn, let me just check. Yeah, no, you'd be fine, you can go straight into Unicorn, you can go into Phoenix, you can extend from there. Or, of course, what you can do is you should have the ability to just sync straight up. And remember, your synchros like Zeta and Omega also have effects in the graveyard to help you recycle. So they can become very, very useful too. For the spells, we've got triple Psyframe Circuit. This, of course, is a field spell that lets you synchro summon during your opponent's turn when a Psyframe monster is special summoned, except during the damage step, of course. And then after the effect resolves, you synchro summon 1 synchro monster using only Psyframe monsters you control. And then at the start of the damage step, if a Psyframe monster you control battles an opponent's monster, you can discard 1 Psyframe monster, and the battling monster gains attack equal to discarded monsters. So you can drop a Driver on top of a Driver, you put your Driver into a 5k beater, and that also puts the Driver in graveyard, which is just as useful as having them in the deck as well. Then of course we've got triple Psychic Field Zone. Now the Field Zone is great as well, so you get to select 2 of your removed from play monsters, 1 Psychic Tuner and 1 Psychic Non-Tuner, return them to the graveyard and special summon 1 Psychic Synchro from your extra deck. So basically if you go second and you drop a Gamma and then it gets banished, you then get to use your Psychic Field Zone to then bring them back into the graveyard and summon out your Omega. Remove Omega from the field to rip one from your opponent's hand, or if you have the ability to normal summon your Cyberse gadget, he can then revive the Gamma. You can then bounce out the Omega, rip one from your opponent's hand, make Lambda, and then you've got, you're good to go from then on. Triple Call to the Grave, because we do want to make sure that our stuff like our triple Foolish Barrel of Goods for the trap card and our double Signet Mining to get our Cyberse monster. This is really good as well because obviously you can discard the driver or you discard a level 2 or lower and then get to revive it with the Cyberse gadget. So we want to make Call by the Grave and make sure that all of these go off and resolve as possible. And the best thing about this is it's very, very good in the sense that if you were to activate Silent Mining and your opponent goes Ash, then you can bait out into a Gamma. And the best thing with your Cypherings is they can't get called by the grave unless they're already in the grave, because they don't discard to the grave as cost. So this would then allow you to get, technically, if they try to Ash you, you'd end up with a Gamma, a Driver, and a Cyberse gadget, plus whatever you discarded you'll be reviving from the graveyard. So you'll have 4 cards on board straight away. You can go straight into a Lambda, give yourself a token, make a Synchro as well, and move on from there. Ultimately, I believe, let me just double check this one, because the Cyberse token is a level 2, you can actually technically use it to synchro up a little bit more if you wanted to as well, rather than having to use the Gamma or whatever Cyberse you've dropped. And then of course we've got Triple the Trap, which is insanely powerful. So once per turn you get to banish a Cypherane monster from your hand or face up from your side of the field, then target 1 card in the field, banish it face down. During either player's turn, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from the graveyard, add 1 Cypherane card from your deck to your hand. So obviously Foolish Burial Goods this, banish it, bring search out any of the Cypherane cards that you might need that could then disrupt your opponent, and then you have the ability with your Zeta and Omega to start recycling some of these as well if they do hit the graveyard and you don't want to banish them. So that's it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck, we play double Lambda. Quite straightforward on this one. Lambda is the brand new card, so you get to activate the effects of Cypherane gear monsters in your hand even while you control a monster or monsters. If a face-up psychic monster you control is banished face up while you control this monster, except during the damage state, you can activate this effect. During the end phase of this turn, add 1 Cypherane card from your deck to your hand. So there's a lot of searchability now with Lambda, and the artwork looks amazing. It looks really cool, so I'm glad they chose the secret of that. For the rest of our Link monsters, of course, we've got the Nightmare Phoenix, we've got the Nightmare Cerberus, and we've got the Nightmare Unicorn, all quite straightforward on a standard Link package. We've then got the one Blackluster Soldier Envoy, not Envoy, Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. So it only requires 3 monsters with different names. So the whole idea is you would then you could use your Lambda plus the token if you do it that way, plus one of your Cypherane monsters. You can just get into a 3k beta that can banish cards as well. It's more of an end board kind of card to push forward through, which is the same with Boral Sword and Borolo Dragon. You're only going to be using your Lambdas to go into these guys, and it's more just to finish the game off rather than sorry guys, finish the game off rather than stall it out. Otherwise you are going to be relying more on your synchro plays over that. Speaking of the synchro plays, we do play the one Black Rose Dragon, double Zeta. So Zeta's graveyard effect is you can target 1 other Cypherane card in your graveyard, return this card to the extra deck, and if you do, add that target to your hand. So to get rid of Zeta, you can bring this back, so you get to recycle your Zetas, and then you get to add 1 of the Cypherane cards back as well, whether it be the trap that you've sent off a Foolish Burial of Goods, or whether it be one of the other Gamma Cypherane gears that you can use and abuse in your hand. Then we play a lot of Synchro level 8s. Scarlight, because I just love the ability of actually having an option to kind of game in my turn if time is called. The Savage Dragon, purely because you can make this during your opponent's turn. The only issue with the Savage Dragon is, unless you've already made the Lambda or one of your Nightmares, you've not got materials in the graveyard to attach, so he's more of a late game kind of play, which isn't ideal, but it is another option. You can take this out for any level 7 or level 8 Synchro you wish. The one Archfiend, very rarely do you go into it, but it is a psychic, so it does give you another option So if you do destroy a monster by battle and send it to the graveyard, you get to gain life points equal to that monster's original attack in the graveyard. During your player's turn, when a spell trap card is activated that targets exactly one psychic monster and no other cards, you can pay 1,000 life points and negate the activation if you do destroy it. This is more for, again, if you're going into time in the battle phase and you need to have a bigger swing than just the damage. You use your Fort Ruler. Fort Ruler attacks your opponent's monster, destroys it. Let's say it only does like 200 damage and you're 1,000 down. He will then give you the life points back in a nice little swing. So that works out quite nicely and kind of keeps you in it, and again can win you, gives you more options to win in time. And then of course the 1 Omega, because it is at 1. Its graveyard effect is you get to target once per turn during your opponent's standby phase. You get to target a banished card, return it to the graveyard, and if this card is in your graveyard, you can target one other card in either player's graveyard, shuffle both that card and this card from the graveyard into the deck. So the fact that it says either player's graveyard, that is where it gets very, very interesting, and some people do forget. So your graveyard is absolutely fine, because then you can just start recycling any of your cards that you wish. However, sometimes your opponent likes to set up their graveyard for future plays, and your Omega can actually disrupt it a lot more. The one thing you've got to remember about Omega is it is susceptible during the standby phase and during the battle phase, because it can only activate its banish effect from field to rip one from your opponent's hand during the main phase. Anyway, that is it for the deck profile. There's still a little bit to work on. Like, it does not rely on Lambda. That's the one interesting thing that I found with the deck, is unless you want to put in a generic kind of 2-card engine, so just to get 2 monsters on board to make the Lambda, it really doesn't rely on that kind of element at all, and it can still do its job. Lambda is just a beautiful additional extension that it can make, and as you saw, the best way that we can do it is either we negate during our opponent's turn and make it that way, or of course we summon the Cyberse gadget and do it that way. Alternatively, what you can do is, if you've had the ability to synchro summon, you go into your Omega or your Zeta, then if you get an additional normal summon out, you then have to use the Zeta or whatever synchro monster you've made and one of the Cyberse gadget or what is revived. That way you then link those up, and then you get to use the graveyard effect of your Omega or Zeta to kind of recycle something that you might need. So for example, if you were to, let's say we gammed and we got Gamma and Driver. Let's move these out of the way just as a quick example. So let's say we gammed during our opponent's turn. Let's say we activated Silent Mining. Our opponent tries to ash us. We gamma them. We get the Driver and the Gamma. We sync these up, go into Omega. We've then been able to successfully search our Cyberse gadget. We'll then normal summon our gadget. Gadget will revive the Gamma. You then use the gadget and the Omega to make your Lambda. There you go, Lambda's there. The gadget will then produce you a token, and then you can get rid of these two for another link 2, or if you wanted to, you could sync them up. The gadget's only a 2, so it would only really go into a 4. So it's entirely up to you on how you'd want to play that, but it would give you the ability to go like that, and then the idea is you would use the Omega or the Zeta in the graveyard, whichever one you've been able to make, to spin something back. If you've made the Zeta, you get to add back, if you were to use this, you would add this back to your hand. If you wanted to, you could add back the gadget, so you've got a turn to a play to make the next turn after that. If it's the Omega, it just allows you to recycle itself, and then probably the Silent Mining if you wanted to as the example, or of course you can put the Cyberse gadget back in. Entirely up to you how you want to play, but you'd still have 4 monsters. And even if you were going second, you could save the Lambda and just link all 4, go straight into like a Borrow Sword or a Borrow Load, only if it's going to win you the game. Alternatively, because you'd have 3 monsters with different names, you could go into the BLS. But like I said, you only really want to be going into your bigger link monsters if you have if you've got game on board, because otherwise you're going to completely lock yourself out of using any more ciphering cards from your hand, and that is not what you want to do in a ciphering deck. You want to be able to use and abuse them as best as you possibly can, and disrupt your opponent as much as possible. Anyway, I hope this helps. I hope this gives you an idea about your ciphering builds. They are a little bit more fun right now. Well, not fun because they are like hand trap turbo. But they definitely got a nice little boost with Lambda, and it's just nice to see decks using the cards that were made for them, even though they're generic as well. But But I hope this gives you a couple of ideas of your own build. If you do have any questions, put them in the comments down below. Smash that like button. Let's get that like button hitting up a little bit more as well. And also subscribe so you don't miss out on any more content coming out. We do have a load coming. We also have brand new art types coming out with the Dream Mirrors, and I'm really excited just to kind of see how they go. And we've also got the Tenyi as well, so I'm looking forward to bringing you those profiles this weekend after Sneak on top of that. For now, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and as always, guys, happy dueling. What's up, YouTube? Dad here from All Games. Thanks for watching that video. If you liked it, please hit that big thumbs up button in the bottom corner as well. And don't forget to hit the big red subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. Make sure you click that notification bell as well so you know every time one of our new videos goes up. Throughout the whole year of 2019, we're going to have more deck profiles, duels, and of course pack openings for you guys to watch and enjoy the entire year round. So stay tuned for more, and as always guys, happy dueling.